Opponents say it will weaken our country, increase our dependency on foreign nations, and unjustly burden our children and grandchildren. Ultimately, they say it's a failure of White House leadership. What is it? It's a move in Congress to raise the debt ceiling. And wait till you find out the names of those opponents. I'm PJTV's Scott Ott, welcoming everyone who's watching this on YouTube and Facebook. When you're done with this brief and excellent episode, make sure that you check out the warehouse of video truth serum at PJTV.com. We're the antidote to the obsolete media. Well, with me today from Los Angeles, California, the co-founder of DeclarationEntertainment.com, Bill Whittle, and from Monument, Colorado, our host of Coast to Coast Tea Party, Hair of the Dog, and the Weekend Blogs, Stephen Green. Now, gentlemen, before we get to the opponents of jacking up the debt ceiling, let's hear from the advocates, two of President Obama's economic advisors. Take a look.
If we hit the debt ceiling, that's essentially defaulting on our obligations, which is totally unprecedented in American history. The impact on the economy would be catastrophic. I mean, that would be a worse financial and economic crisis than anything we saw in 2008.
I don't think there's any question but that the debt ceiling must be raised. I think, as Austin Goolsbee said, and as you can ask any financial market participant around the world, it would be catastrophic, not just for the United States, but for global financial markets if the U.S. did not behave responsibly vis-a-vis its debt. And in this case, that means increasing the debt limit and ruling out even the slightest hint that the debt will be used as a political weapon.
Well, that grumpy boy was Austin Goolsbee, chairman of the White House Council of Economic Advisors, and the chipper girl, Laura Tyson, member of the President's Economic Recovery Advisory Board. I guess if you have the first, you have to have the second. Bill, you know, it sounds like they got the catastrophic talking point nailed, but do real people, I mean, outside the Beltway, actually believe such scare words anymore?
This is a tough one, Scotty. I got to tell you, I despise those two people for all the right reasons. They're smug, they're elitist, they're utterly convinced they got all this sorted out. They see no problem with a $15 trillion debt, and they want to run it up to 20 or 30 or 50. And if they keep running up this debt, there is going to be an economic collapse, and it's not going to be caused by the failure of raising the debt ceiling. It's going to be caused by the fact that our money's not worth anything anymore. With that said, I don't think you take a person who's 1,000 pounds overweight and get them back to weight by never feeding them again. The bottom line is that this ceiling, if they do default on this, there are going to be catastrophic results. That's a fact. I think if you listen to Speaker Boehner, who's serious about reducing this debt, what he's saying is if we raise this debt ceiling, it will be accompanied by ironclad cuts in spending, and you start to ramp this thing down rather than cutting it off. We saw what happened when Gingrich tried to shut down the government due to lack of money. The Republicans got blamed for all of the Democrats' excess.
Well, Steve, I'm going to let you deal with the opponents of hiking the debt ceiling. Two senators have said that it represents a failure of leadership from the White House, a dangerous deepening of dependency on nations like China, and an immoral imposition of multi-generational burdens. Those senators? Harry Reid and Barack Obama, who in 2006 opposed the Republican effort to raise the debt ceiling, saying just those sorts of things. Now, how did it go from being a dangerous, bad idea to essentially the only medicine for what ails us and the only way to prevent catastrophe?
Oh, yeah. Well, they're in charge now. And, you know, I'm not sure Bill has this, because here's what they don't tell you. Even if we don't raise the debt ceiling, it's going to be a long time before we actually default. The Treasury takes in a lot of money every month, a lot of money. On average this year, about $200 billion it takes in every month. And we owe about $200 billion in interest payments for the entire year. So we can keep paying our debt obligations to China and retirement accounts for old people and all the rest for a very, very long time before we have to raise the debt ceiling. And we don't have to borrow any money at all, not one dime, if we can get spending back to 2005 levels, 2005, and we're in the black even without a recovery. It's just cowardice that we can't do this.
We'll get to more specifics on that in a minute, but Bill, Of course, today some Republicans, especially Tea Party types, are taking a stand against boosting government borrowing without, as you mentioned, slashing spending. Was Senator Barack Obama Tea Party before the Tea Party was cool?
I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that because otherwise my head's going to explode and we're going to get all this nastiness all over the set and all over the cameras. What? I didn't hear you. No, I don't think that's the case, Scotty. I think that Barack Obama used the raising of the debt ceiling to gore his political opponents, and now that he is his own political opponent, then let's drop that particular sword. I've got to tell you, I want to bow to Steve Green's analysis. The idea of raising the debt ceiling makes me physically ill. It is the single issue in the country today. It's the only issue, and it's probably going to be the only issue for the rest of our young lives. So anything we can do not to raise the debt ceiling is great. If Steve is right about it not causing an immediate financial default on everything, then I say let's do it. But this has got to stop. It's not going to continue.
Well, Steve actually would find himself in agreement with one of today's opponents of raising the debt ceiling. Pennsylvania rookie Senator Pat Toomey has introduced Senate Bill 163 that reads as follows. In the event that the debt of the United States government reaches the statutory limit, the authority of the Department of the Treasury to pay with legal tender the principal and interest on debt held by the public shall take priority over all other obligations incurred by the government of the United States. Now, I would read you the other 2,700 pages of this bill, but there are no more. The bill is one sentence. What Democrats are calling it, by the way, Toomey's Pay China First plan. Listen to Senator Toomey, as recorded by our friend Lisa Miller.
I think the most irresponsible thing that we can do as a Congress, the least grown-up thing we can do, is just vote to raise that debt ceiling and continue business as usual, mounting these massive deficits of debt that we have been running on.
Now, Stephen, why does Senator Toomey love communist China more than he loves America's children on welfare?
Yeah, I'm going to bring this up again. I'll ask you a question. Were American kids starving in the streets in 2005? No. We need to cut spending and quit adding up this debt because it's those starving kids who are in hock to China, not just us. And we need to cut regulation, Obamacare, all of it, so those starving kids will inherit an economy that produces jobs for them and wealth. You know, we're sitting here, we're repeating all the same mistakes of the New Deal, and there's no excuse for it. We should have learned the lesson. But it seems all the Democrats learned was it's great to trot out starving kids to protect their pet projects.
And pick up a copy of Amity Schle's book, The Forgotten Man, when you get a chance.
Right.
Excellent review of that, what Stephen just mentioned there. Bill, Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner immediately declared the Toomey plan unworkable because, get this, if we failed to fully fund every government program and all the personnel, we would be breaking our promises and therefore jeopardizing our credit rating. Now, what's wrong with that reasoning?
We could sum it up by saying Tim Geithner's an idiot, and all you have to do is look at the mess we're in to have as much evidence as you need at that conclusion. Look, the Republicans are making a serious mistake here in one sense. What they're trying to do is they're trying to say, hey, we need to go in and we need to cut spending because we're mean people. We just don't want you to have the money. The argument needs to be framed this way. We either control this spending, we get the spending under control, and we walk it down peacefully and realistically and rationally, or it continues and it collapses. The bottom line is, folks, you are not going to get free money forever. So do you want to come down off of this hill in a nice, reasonable, controlled fashion, or do you want an utter economic collapse? The option to continue doing this is just not on the table anymore.
DeclarationEntertainment.com co-founder Bill Whittle can be enjoyed to the full at billwhittle.net. Steve, some conservative members of Congress have called for steep spending cuts in exchange for an expansion of that federal credit limit, rather than just a flat-out opposition to hiking the debt ceiling. Now, will this seem like unreasonable compromise to our friends in the Tea Party movement?
Oh, look, I don't know what it's going to look like because the battle hasn't really begun yet. Right now, each side is still, suiting up, trying to select the best place to hold the battle, getting their artillery pre-sighted the whole bit. So we don't know. But I know this much. If the GOP doesn't deliver real cuts, the Tea Party will replace it. Maybe not as a third party, but there won't be a single safe Republican come the primary season next year. And that means, and I hope the GOP listens, that means the old GOP has maybe 9 months to deliver real results. There's a revolution coming in the spring.
Always with the violent rhetoric. That's my friend Stephen Green. He hosts PJTV's Coast to Coast Tea Party, Hair of the Dog, and the Weekend blogs. You can follow him online and on Twitter at Vodka Pundit. Well, PJTV is bringing you CPAC this week in living color, starting Thursday, going through Saturday. Make sure you catch our live coverage and special interviews with conservative thinkers, activists, and leaders. That's right here at PJTV.com. Well, because the national debt is essentially an accumulation of annual deficits rolled over with interest year after year, it's not possible to cut enough this year to end our need to keep borrowing money, let alone to reduce the existing debt. And yet, it doesn't make much sense to average Americans to say that we can't cut $1 trillion from the federal budget if that's what the annual deficit is. It means that's what we're spending this year beyond what we expect to take in. And I hate to be Chris Christie about it, but we just can't afford it. We don't have the money. What does seem reasonable, given the fact that it took years to get us into this mess, as Bill has suggested, is to immediately cut anything that has not yet become institutionalized as a part of American life. For example, the disingenuously named Affordable Care Act would be a good start. The Republican promise to return to 2008 spending levels might be another good start. But then we have to have a plan for phasing out entire sectors of costly federal government interference in our lives, little by little, over time. But it must be done. For Steve Green, Bill Whittle, and the entire trifecta crew at PJTV.com, I'm Scott Ott.